There is one song in the entire Motown catalog that told the truth so loud, the most powerful man in the building was afraid of what telling it might cost him. He had it recorded, and then he looked at his biggest stars, the ones keeping the lights on at Hitsville, and he pulled back, because some songs are too dangerous to give to someone you need. So he gave it to someone he thought he could afford to lose. And what happened next changed American music forever. Number 10. The rule Berry Gordy lived by. There was a wall around Motown that most people on the outside couldn't see. Not a physical wall, a principle, one rule that Berry Gordy applied to everything. Every signing, every single, every decision, and that rule, more than anything else, is what set this whole story in motion before anyone had even written a note. The rule was simple. Don't give them a reason to turn you off. By 1969, Gordy's operation was producing hit records the way Detroit produced cars. Marvin Gaye, Diana Ross, The Temptations, The Four Tops, Stevie Wonder. These weren't just popular artists, they were American icons. Black artists whose music had crossed into white living rooms, white radio, white America's idea of what a hit record sounded like. And that crossing, that crossover, had required something most people never stopped to think about. It had required Gordy to deliberately keep his label out of the crossfire. Every single day, no politics, no controversy, no music that was going to get a program director in Birmingham or Cincinnati picking up the phone to drop a Motown record from rotation. The genius of Motown wasn't just the music, it was the discipline around the music. Gordy understood that the door between black artists and mainstream America could close just as fast as it had opened. And if you've ever built something carefully, a business, a reputation, something that took years and looked solid on the outside, but you knew exactly how fragile it was underneath, you understand the kind of vigilance that requires. Every morning, every decision, that's the world Norman Whitfield walked into in 1969 when he sat down with Barrett Strong and wrote a song called War. He didn't just write a protest record, he wrote a problem for the most careful man in the music business. And the problem was about to get a lot more complicated. Number 9, the most dangerous song in the building. 1969, and America is on fire. Not metaphorically, actually on fire. Politicians say more taxes will solve everything. More than 45,000 American lives had already been swallowed by Vietnam, and the draft was still running. And here's something that gets lost in the history books. Black men were being shipped overseas at disproportionate rates. Neighborhoods in Detroit, in Cleveland, in cities where Motown's music grew up on street corners and kitchen radios. Boys who had grown up hearing these songs were coming home in boxes. Norman Whitfield knew that. He was Motown's most restless producer, already pushing the Temptations somewhere darker, more alive, more awake. The only person talking about love, thine brother, is the preacher. And in 1969, he sat down with songwriter Barrett Strong, and they wrote something that both of them knew was going to cause a problem. They called it war.
Bills, new records of gas.
And the only safe place to live. No metaphor, no poetry, just the word, sitting there like a flat surface nobody wanted to touch. War. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Simple, direct, undeniable. And in 1969, on a label that had built its entire success on carefully straddling the line between black music and white mainstream America, those three words were as close to radioactive as a song could get. Because here's the thing. And if you've ever loved Motown, you already know this, even if you never put it in these exact words. Berry Gordy didn't build Hitsville on the blues model. He didn't build it to speak hard truths to small rooms full of believers. He built it to cross over, to reach everybody. That was the genius of it. And that crossover depended, almost completely, on Motown staying out of the crossfire. Norman Whitfield just dropped a song square in the middle of the crossfire. Real talk. Only 9% of you are subscribed. That hurts. We're spending hours digging through archives, fact-checking every detail, bringing these stories back to life. And if you're watching this far, you clearly care. So hit subscribe. It's free and takes 2 seconds. Now, to my subscribers, barely any of you have joined the membership. And honestly, that stings even more. You know the work we put in. You keep coming back. If these videos have ever made you feel something, if this music means something to you, join the membership. It's $1 coffee a month, and it's the only way we keep this going. Let's build this together. All right, back to it. Number 8, the album, the letters, the problem. Here's the thing about Norman Whitfield. He wasn't making a suggestion when he brought war to the Temptations. He was insisting. They went into the studio and they laid it down. The song appeared on their 1970 album, Psychedelic Shack. Paul Williams and Dennis Edwards sharing the lead. Melvin Franklin chanting something militaristic in the background. It was restrained compared to what the song would eventually become, purposeful but not incandescent, more like a statement than a declaration. Berry Gordy had a rule. Albums were albums. Singles were everything. A single was what got on the radio. A single was what made careers. A single with the Temptations on the label and their faces on the promotional material, releasing an overtly anti-Vietnam War anthem was also what could end careers. So he held back the single release and figured that was probably that. But the fans found it. Psychedelic Shack came out in March of 1970. People bought it, dropped the needle, and when war came through their speakers, something happened they weren't prepared for. They didn't just like it, they needed it.
Oh yeah, that's just like people I'm talking about.
And within weeks, letters were flooding into Motown's offices. Not texts, not tweets, actual handwritten letters, stamped and mailed, from thousands of young people. Most of them college students, already deep in the protest movement, demanding that Motown release War as a single. Author Jerry Hershey documented more than 4,000 of those letters. 4,000 people, writing by hand. And now Gordy had a different problem than he started with. Because you can't ignore a signal that loud, but you also can't just flip a switch without understanding what you'd be turning on. The fans wanted a record, the label had a machine to protect, and somewhere in that tension, the actual decision got made. Number 7. The machine worth protecting. Before we get to what Gordy decided, I want to stay here a second, because this part of the story is more complicated than it usually gets credit for. It's easy, and honestly, kind of satisfying, to make Berry Gordy the villain in a story like this. The businessman who chose profit over principle, who looked at a true thing and said no. And I'm not going to tell you that criticism has no merit. Some of it does. But here's the full picture, and you can decide what to do with it. Gordy was running a black-owned record company in America in 1970. And that alone was extraordinary. Motown wasn't a vanity project. It wasn't a boutique label. It was an ecosystem. It employed hundreds of black workers in Detroit. It was infrastructure in a city still bruised from the 1967 riots. And Gordy understood, not from paranoia, but from pattern recognition, that black-owned businesses in America operated with almost no margin for error. One wrong move didn't just hurt a quarter's numbers, it could collapse the whole thing. So when he looked at Marvin Gaye and Diana Ross and the Temptations, those weren't just artists he cared about. They were the structural pillars holding up a building that a lot of people depended on to stand. One political controversy, one wave of banned records, one broadcaster deciding Motown had crossed a line, and that building starts to crack. Was it the right call? You probably know which side you come down on. And honestly, so do I. I think it was the wrong decision, made by someone who understood the real cost of being wrong, in a way most of us never had to. Those two things can both be true. What I know for sure is this. Gordy told Norman Whitfield to find someone else to record it. Someone who could carry the song without threatening the architecture he'd built. Someone the machine could absorb the loss of, if it came to that. Go find another voice. One we can afford to lose. Number 6. Rare Earth said no. Here's the part of this story that almost never gets told. Norman Whitfield didn't go to Edwin Starr first. He went to Rare Earth. Rare Earth was a white rock group, one of the only white acts that Berry Gordy had ever signed to Motown. And the thinking, presumably, was this. A white rock band could absorb the political heat differently than a black R&B act. War would land in a different cultural space. The controversy, if it came, would fall where it could be more easily managed. Rare Earth said no. A white rock band on a predominantly black label turned down an anti-war protest song because they thought it was too politically risky. Stay with me on that for a second, because that tells you something about how radioactive this song was considered to be inside that building. If the one act that had the least to lose from a political backlash still wouldn't touch it, then what does that tell you about the song? What does that tell you about the moment? Whitfield was almost out of options. Almost. Because there was one more door. One more artist on the Motown roster who Whitfield knew could deliver this song. And here's the thing that changes the whole story. When word got around the label that Whitfield was looking, when the situation became known inside those walls, that artist didn't wait to be asked. He raised his hand. Number 5, the man nobody was protecting. His real name was Charles Edwin Hatcher, born in Nashville, raised in Cleveland.
I don't wear a false stand, and you never see me.
He came up through the Detroit soul scene in the mid-60s on a small label called Rick Tick, technically a Motown rival, which tells you something about how Berry Gordy eventually came to own him. In 1968, Gordy bought Rick Tick outright. Edwin Starr came along with the deal, not by audition, not by choice. He was acquired, not recruited. At Rick Tick, he'd built a real reputation, especially in the UK's northern soul scene, where they loved him the way those rooms love people who bring everything every single night. Hits like Agent 00 Soul and Stop Her on Sight made him a known quantity in Detroit. And when he got to Motown, he broke through in 1969 with 25 Miles. A driving, irresistible record that climbed to number 6 on both the Hot 100 and the R&B chart. Real talent, real presence.
My real name's no secret, but for me, it's the left.
If you've heard 25 Miles, you know this is a man who can hold a room. But in the Motown hierarchy, where the Temptations were royalty and Marvin Gaye was already approaching something close to legend, Edwin Starr was what music industry sources would describe, plainly, as second string. He had real hits and real ability and still wasn't the one anyone upstairs was lying awake protecting. And if you've ever been in that exact position, capable, consistent, doing real work, and still somehow knowing that you're not inside anyone's plan, you know the particular clarity that comes with it. You see the machine clearly. From the outside, you understand your place in it. You understand what you're worth to the people running it. Edwin Starr understood exactly what he was worth to Berry Gordy's machine in 1970, and that understanding is what made what he did next possible. Number 4, he stepped forward. When Edwin Starr heard what was happening with war, the internal debate, rare earth refusing, Whitfield trying to figure out where to take it next, he didn't sit and wait. He volunteered. Now, he wasn't naive about what that meant. He was 28 years old and had been working in the music business long enough to read a room. He understood that he was being offered something no established star wanted to touch. He understood that if the song caused backlash and damaged his career, the label could absorb that loss without missing a beat. He understood that he was, in the coldest terms, the acceptable risk. He said yes anyway, but he said yes with one condition. told Whitfield, "I'll do this, but I have to sing it my way. I have to do what I feel." And what he felt changed everything about what that song became.
And you can tell by the way she talks. And you can tell by the way.
Those ad-libs, good God, y'all. Edwin Starr, absolutely nothing, delivered with that bottomless, disgusted certainty that cuts through every speaker it's ever come out of. Edwin Starr. Those weren't on any page. Nobody wrote them for him. He brought them into the room because the song wasn't abstract to him. He later said the song was never only about Vietnam. It was about the violence tearing through American neighborhoods, the racial conflict, the ways people destroyed each other in the streets right outside. War was personal to him in ways that went beyond any one conflict. And the thing about singing something personal, the thing that separates performance from truth, is that you can always hear the difference. You know it when it hits you. Sometimes the person who steps forward when everyone else steps back was always supposed to be the one to carry it. They just needed an open door. Number 3, One Take. Edwin Starr recorded War in May 1970, and according to Starr himself, the vocals were done in one take. Think about that for a second. One passed through a song that was going to be his defining moment, on a record that was carrying more political weight than almost anything Motown had ever released. One take, not because he had all the time in the world, but because he came in that day ready to give everything he had on the first pass. He had to. The session was short. Motown moved fast, always. Norman Whitfield had rebuilt the production entirely around Starr's voice. The Temptations version had been restrained, chanted, almost march-like, deliberate. For Starr, Whitfield went full scale. Electric guitar with that distorted, fuzzed-out urgency. Clavinets, a horn section that hits like something physical, and Edwin Starr driving through all of it with a soul shout rooted in James Brown that was completely unlike anything Motown had put its name on before. The Funk Brothers were in the room that day. Jack Ashford on tambourine, Bob Babbitt on bass, Dennis Coffey on guitar, the same guitarist whose fuzz tone had helped push Cloud 9 into new sonic territory. And when Starr came in and delivered that opening, yeah, before the first lyric even lands, something was different. You can feel the room understanding what it's inside. War came out as a single on June 9th, 1970, and within weeks, it was everywhere. Not because Motown's promotional machine pushed it, because once the song was in the air, it was impossible to keep out of rooms. Radio stations were playing it on repeat. People were calling stations demanding to hear it again. The demand wasn't manufactured. It was real.
Listen to me.
And by August 29th, 1970, War was the #1 song in America, #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 for 3 straight weeks. One of Motown's 7 #1s of 1970, Billboard's 5th biggest record of the entire year.
Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely.
John Lennon heard it and praised it. A man who knew something about protest music recognized it immediately for what it was.
Blows
The song Nobody Would Touch was the biggest record in the country. Number 2, Number 1, and Nothing. Here's the part they don't put in the press releases. War sold millions of copies. It was one of Motown's biggest sellers of the decade. And Edwin Starr, the man who stepped forward when Rare Earth refused, who laid the whole thing down in one take, who brought the ad-libs nobody scripted, later said that when War was number 1 around the world, Motown gave him almost nothing to follow it up with. No meaningful promotional infrastructure, no major push to turn that moment into a sustained career. He saw one royalty check from a record that sold millions, one. And the figure on it was so small, it barely registered as real. Then nothing after that. Let that land. The man who handed them a number 1 record, a cultural landmark, an anti-war anthem, a song John Lennon respected, a song that would be inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame decades later, saw one royalty check and that was the end of it. And he said it plainly later in his life. To paraphrase him, if there was ever a moment for him to become a superstar, that was the moment. And it passed. The label that had used his willingness to take a risk, his conviction, his voice, they didn't invest that success back into him. And if you've ever done something that became someone else's win, put yourself on the line, delivered beyond what anyone expected, and then watch the recognition flow sideways past you, you know that's a specific kind of thing to carry. It doesn't make you bitter, necessarily, but it doesn't go away either. It just sits there, quiet, underneath everything. Edwin Starr kept working anyway. Number 1, what the song became. But here's what Motown's royalty accounting couldn't touch. And here's what their promotional decisions couldn't stop. The song simply outlived all of it. War has been covered, sampled, and borrowed by artists across 5 decades, and every genre you can name. Frankie Goes to Hollywood in the 80s. Bruce Springsteen, who performed it at the close of his Born in the USA tour, standing in front of arena crowds and making it clear exactly what he thought the song was still saying. Not about Vietnam specifically, but about power and blind trust in people who send other people to die. The song has been in films and television shows and commercials. It gets played at protests. It gets played at stadiums. It shows up wherever human beings are trying to say something large and difficult about violence and what it costs everyone it touches. In 1999, War was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame. Edwin Starr moved to England in 1983 and found an audience there that understood what he was. He performed on the Northern Soul circuit, those clubs and venues that had always gotten it, and he toured constantly. Everybody who worked with him, who knew him, said the same thing. One of the genuinely nicest people in the business. Not a man who carried bitterness about what had happened, or at least not one who let you see it. And every time he performed War, right up to his final shows in Stuttgart, Germany, at the end of March 2003, he sang it like it still meant something, because it did. On April 2nd, 2003, Edwin Starr passed away from a heart attack at his home in Nottingham. He was 61 years old. His very last recording, made just weeks before his death, was a new version of War, his final attempt to put something on tape.
Across the crowded disco room, through a maze.
The last song he ever tried to make was the one they'd handed him because they thought they could afford to lose him. Some of y'all felt that. I know you did.